What would RobTop's main levels be rated if you were forced to collect all 3 coins in order to beat the level? This is part 1, and we're going to be starting off with Stereo Madness. Let's get it. Stereo Madness is the very first level in the game, meaning most of its gameplay is very easy. The beginning of the level is simple cube jumps over spikes and on blocks in order to teach the player the basics of the game. Then we get into the ship section of the level, which once again is rated very easy and just teaches the player how to maneuver up and down with the ship game mode. After the ship section, we get the very first coin, which is easy to drop down and get. Later in the level, we get the first triple spike, which is actually fairly hard for a new player. The second coin in this level is also very easy to get by jumping on top of the blocks and over the spike to grab the coin. And then we have another triple spike. In the final section of the level, there is a secret path for the third coin. This path is honestly very tight to navigate through, which would make it very difficult for new players to get the last coin. And that's the end of the level, Stereo Madness. So if you were forced to beat Stereo Madness with all 3 coins, I would still rate it an easy level, but I would give it 2 stars instead. The second level in the game is Back on Track, which is rated easy and given 2 stars. Let's see how that changes. Back on Track starts off fairly similarly to Stereo Madness with fairly easy jumps, except we introduce the pads as a new mechanic to the game. These are fake pads, which are a little bit difficult for a new player. The first coin is a bit hidden, but all you need to do is drop onto this blue pad. Later in the ship section, the second coin is even easier, where you simply just fly through this passage. The third coin in the level is also very easy, where you can just drop down onto these blocks, which are hidden with the background spikes. The rest of the gameplay of this level is very easy, and that's the end of the level, Back on Track. So given that the gameplay and the coins in this level are very easy, I would rate it easy and only give it 1 star. The third level is Poltergeist, which is rated normal and given 3 stars, but does have a very difficult coin. The level starts off really easy, introducing orbs as a new mechanic to the player. The gameplay does start to ramp up to normal difficulty with the use of fake orbs and just faster jumps overall. Once again, the ship section in this level is very easy with only a few blocks to dodge. Grabbing the coin is more about memorization on when to hold to go to the roof. The second coin is a bit hard to see, but easy to drop down and grab the coin. The third coin requires very precise timing to jump early to hit this blue pad, hit the orb, and then hold to immediately jump when you land on the ground. And the ending of the level is fairly easy. And that's the end of the level, Poltergeist. So while the third coin in Poltergeist is very difficult, the rest of the gameplay is quite easy that I would still rate this a normal level with 4 stars instead. Moving on to Dryout, it is initially rated normal and given 4 stars. Dryout starts off pretty easy, but compared to previous levels, the jumps do have to be a little bit more precise. The first coin is another blind memorized drop, but you have to hold when you land to jump on all the blocks. Then the gravity is switched to upside down, which can be quite the learning curve for a new player. The second coin does require a late jump to get on top and dodge the spikes, which can be a little bit more precise. In my opinion, the flying section still remains very easy. The third coin gets a little bit harder with a tight straight fly. The rest of the level is fairly normal, and that's the end of the level, Dryout. So given that the gameplay of this level does get a little bit harder, and both the second and third coin are rated hard and harder, I would rate this level hard with 5 stars. Moving on to Base After Base, the level is initially rated hard with 5 stars. Base After Base starts off very easy overall, with a lot of jumps that the player is very familiar with. The second coin is extremely easy and you literally don't even have to click. This part of the level is still pretty easy, but the second coin requires a precisely timed jump to go through this gap with the spike. Later in the level, the flying section is still very easy, and this third coin is extremely easy where you can just hold. Switching our gravity again, the gameplay overall here is pretty normal in difficulty. There is a triple spike here, which is a hard way to end the level. And that's the end of the level, base after base. So given that the second coin in this level is very difficult, while the other two are really easy, I would downgrade this level to normal difficulty and give it 4 stars. Next we have Can't Let Go, which is rated hard and given 6 stars. Can't Let Go starts off with pretty easy and normal difficulty jumps that the player is fairly used to. However, this quickly ramps up into hard difficulty where the jumps require way quicker and more precise timing. The first coin is once again memorization of when to drop onto these pads. This next section of the level is fairly easy overall. Once again, we get an easy ship part here. This second coin is a fairly tight gap, but you can rest on top of the block, making it hard difficulty. The third coin here is hard as you're upside down and it requires a blind jump after those pads. The rest of this upside down gameplay is also decently hard. There is another triple spike before you can beat the level. And that's the end of the level, Can't Let Go. Can't Let Go's gameplay and coins overall do fit a normal and hard difficulty level, so I think this level perfectly fits a hard rating with 6 stars. Next we have the level Jumper, which is initially rated harder and given 7 stars. Jumper starts off at normal difficulty with lots of varying jumps and drops. The upside down part becomes even more difficult and harder to sight read for less experienced players. The ship part is pretty easy, but we also do switch our gravity. The first coin is upside down and requires flying through a 1-block gap, making it insane difficulty. The second coin is pretty simple and you can just jump on this upper path to grab it. This jump is also pretty hard, requiring an early jump after the portal to not hit the wall. The flying section, which includes the third coin, is still pretty easy, but a little bit more difficult than the previous levels. There is another hard triple spike here, and then some more regular gameplay. This upside down section can also be pretty hard, learning when to jump and when to fall. But it does get easier when you're in regular gravity. And that's the end of the level, Jumper. With Jumper's gameplay overall being fairly hard, and its first coin being insane difficulty, I do think this level rounds out pretty nicely at a harder rating with 7 stars. Next we have Time Machine, which is initially rated harder with 8 stars and has lots of triple spikes. Time Machine starts off pretty fast paced with immediately throwing multiple triple spikes at you. The first coin is pretty hard in difficulty, requiring a late jump to not hit your head on the spike. Then we get the introduction of the mirror portal, which just makes the gameplay a little bit more harder. This ship part requires a 1-block gap straight fly in order to grab the second coin. The rest of the flying section here is also pretty hard. Later in the level, the third coin is pretty easy to get, but does have a really hard blind jump when you land on the ground. And then we get more and more triple spikes. There's also some decently hard upside down gameplay with more triple spikes. And the final flying section of the level is pretty normal, but then you go upside down and it does become a little bit hard. And that is the end of the level, Time Machine. So given that Time Machine does have a lot of triple spikes, making the gameplay a little bit harder, and it also has a lot of hard coins, I do think this level is worthy of a harder rating with 8 stars. Next we have Cycles, which used to be an insane level, but is now rated harder with 9 stars. While the level starts off pretty easy, it quickly gets very difficult with lots of triple spikes. This gravity change into triple spike is actually very hard to time properly. This section also has a lot of triple spikes and fake orbs, requiring a lot more precision in your jumps. Then we introduce the ball game mode, which is pretty easy except for this first coin, which has a really hard timing. This ship part is also pretty difficult, where you have to constantly switch your gravity, and then also grab the second coin at the end. This ball gameplay starts to get a little bit more difficult, and this third coin requires a very hard timing to get above the level and dodge the spikes. Finally, the rest of the level is ball gameplay with only a few more precise jumps. And that is the end of the level, Cycles. So So given that the gameplay in Cycles is a lot more difficult with all 3 coins being pretty hard to get, I would rate this level insane with 11 stars. Next we have X-Step, which is technically the first insane level in the game with 10 stars. The first part of X-Step is pretty easy and familiar overall. The first coin is pretty hard to get without hitting the surrounding spikes and walls. The second ship section is even harder with even tighter gaps between the spikes. The second coin is also pretty hard to drop into the gap without hitting any of the blue pads. The third coin requires a very late jump into a blind blue orb into multiple other real and fake yellow orbs, making that insane difficulty. These blue orbs are pretty difficult to spam between, but then the rest of the ball gameplay becomes a little bit easier. Finally, the flying section is a little bit hard at the end of the level with some tight sections, but not too bad overall. And that is the end of the level, X-Step. Given that all 3 coins in X-Step are fairly difficult, I do think it's worthy of an insane rating and 10 stars. And for the last level of this video, we have Clutterfunk, which is rated insane and given 11 stars. Similar to most of the other levels, Clutterfunk starts off fairly easy with only a few hard jumps. We do get the introduction of the mini icon in this level, which does make this section a lot harder. But it is fairly readable, so with practice, I don't think it's too hard overall. This ship section is pretty hard with a lot of spikes, and the coin is even harder, having to navigate through a pretty tight gap. This mini ball section is also really hard, and because it's pretty fast paced, it's easy to miss one of the clicks. Then we get a mini ship section, which is a lot more sensitive to inputs and can be pretty hard to navigate. The second coin requires going through this 1-block gap after quickly switching your gravity. This part of the level can also be pretty difficult with harder jumps and more memorization required. For the third coin, you just have to miss this final orb to drop down and get it, which is not too difficult. A lot of these orb clicks in the end of this level can be pretty difficult and fast-paced, requiring a lot of buffering. But once you've made it here, you no longer have to jump, and that's the end of the level, Clutterfunk. Given that the difficulty of the gameplay in this level does get ramped up a lot compared to other previous levels, I do think Clutterfunk is worthy of an insane rating with 11 stars. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you want to see a part 2 where I go through the rest of the levels, and also if you agree or disagree with my ratings. Thank you so much for watching, and if you've stuck around to this point in the video, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps me out on my goal to reach 1,000 subscribers. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.